Today is going to be the short version of how to measure the alignment of any vehicle. Well, particularly tow and camber, okay? Any vehicle with any kind of wheels. I have a lengthier version of this that describes all of these angles in greater detail and how they affect your car. Today, I want to just jump right into the measurement part so I can give you a few more tips on how to do this as accurately as possible, and also explain to you why some of the other methods don't work. Okay. I'm also want to be able to give you, for all the people who have something other than a factory size wheel, a method to calculate the difference between your wheel and the factory wheel, the difference it'll make in your actual measurements. Okay. So to begin with, guys, for any of our measurements, we need to have some of these basic requirements. You can read what they are. The most important are, make sure and pull in with your steering wheel straight ahead. And the absolutely most important thing is do not jack up your vehicle before you make any measurements. Don't jack it up to place shims under the tires. If you've made an adjustment to the car and you've jacked it up to get to that adjustment, I don't care how much you push on the suspension or roll the car back and forth after you put it back on the ground, your measurements are going to probably be a little bit off. We're almost always going to need to drive the car, make sure the suspension is properly settled, drive into our parking spot, and then start our measurements. Okay, very critical. So first of all, before I start and tell you the actual measurement method, let's go over what we need. It's pretty basic. Okay, the most important thing, I believe, is what we're going to see is our laser level. Okay, we're going to use this primarily to measure camber, but it's going to be the most accurate method, and I'll explain to you why. A new version of this, I think, is about $60 with a red beam coming out of it. Okay, and if you'll notice, this beam is flashing. That's because the laser level is not sitting on a flat enough surface to self-level. So when you use these, make sure the beam is not flashing. And the reason for this funny knob on the side is it actually locks the internals of it so they're not jiggling around and getting messed up while you're transporting the laser level. Don't carry it around with it turned on. Only turn it on once you have it in place and you're going to use it. It's like about 60 bucks. I think you can get a little bit nicer one with the green beam. It's like 65. Woo! Okay, next most important thing, guys, is a good tape measure. Okay, get a good tape measure with a nice wide blade and easy to read markings. Okay, don't buy some freaky dink thing like this. Okay, this is going to be nothing but trouble. You can't hardly see the markings. The blade is way too flexible and flimsy. Just don't use stuff like this. Use a good tape measure. It'll come in handy all around the house. And the biggest part about this, it's very handy, is the big wide flat blade for holding up against your wheels. Okay, comes in real handy, making sure you keep your tape measure straight when you're making your measurements. All right, because one thing we have to remember, guys, in setting tow, the majority of all cars, if my tow is 0, the deviation in my tow is literally about 0.5 millimeter, or 1/64 of an inch. That is the standard deviation on your toe in the front of most cars. That's a very tiny amount, so we have to be extremely accurate in our measurements to be able to achieve that. All right, so like I said, the main reason why the methods I'm going to show you are more accurate than other ones you see are because we are measuring them at the center line of the wheel. Other methods do not do this. Same with camber. We're going to be measuring at the center line of the wheel. Extremely important. Okay, so I said some basic requirements for setting your car up. I just explained those to you. When we start to measure tow, obviously we want a level floor. Camber also is probably more important than tow for having a level floor. And honestly, your left to right of the car is what's most important. You can have a slight uphill or downhill. It's not going to change your measurements very little. And the easiest way is to take your laser level, sit it on a bucket, on something flat, okay? Pull into your parking spot and mark where your 4 tires are gonna be. Back out of the way, take a tape measure and shoot your horizontal line off your laser level and measure your 4 spots from your line to the floor, okay? The difference between your lines will be what you may have to shim underneath your tires. And like I said, always drive up onto your shims. Do not jack the car up to do this, guys. It's not gonna work, all right? That's the most simple of things. Everything else we're gonna be doing here, in a nutshell, is we're gonna be establishing 2 parallel lines, one on each side of the car. The lines are parallel to each other, and they're also parallel to the car, okay? So those list of rules I'm giving you for this, the first rule is just for ease of measurement. Keep your strings just below the center line of the wheel. That's so when you come in here and you go to make your measurements, your tape measure is not touching the string, okay? Cannot touch the string while you're making your measurements. Do not do this. It will mess up your measurements. Now, the third, and fourth rules are almost so self-explanatory, but I'll show it in this picture here. Number 3 is keep the distance between the strings equal, okay? So, in this example, I've shown you it's 72 inches. Front and rear, that means my 2 strings are parallel all the time. That's real simple to establish. All I have to do now is shift that parallel line so that the distance between my strings is equal on both front wheels and both rear wheels, okay? And the reason we do that is because the distance between the front and the rear wheels is not the same. Once we establish all these distances, we are perfect and ready to measure our toe. All right, so just a quick few suggestions when you're measuring this. The nice tape measure helps. I can actually come in here. It's hard for me to show you the perfect angle on my phone. When I'm looking at it, I can hold this and read my tape measure. When I'm reading it like this, if I'm not holding the tape measure straight, I will not have the same measurement on the top and bottom of the tape measure. In other words, if I'm holding it like this, top and bottom are not the same. That means I'm holding it crooked. So I'm always going to make sure we hold it straight, get the same measurement on top and bottom of the tape measure. That's one thing. The other thing I suggest you to do is always have the same orientation for when you take all 8 of your measurements, okay? I'm right-handed, so I hold the tape with my right hand. I'm looking at the car tire to my left, and I'll come in and I will measure my front measurement for toe. I'll stand here and I'll look at the same direction and measure the rear of my tire with toe. I will move to the back of the car. I'll stand the same orientation and measure once again the front of the tire, and then go measure the back of the tire. Okay, then I'm gonna go around the car. I'm gonna stand with the same orientation every time. I'm gonna stand with the same orientation, look at the measuring tape the same way for measuring my toe and also for measuring my distance to the front centers of the wheels, okay? This means you're looking at it the same way. If you look at something with 2 eyes, go ahead, look at it with 2 eyes all the time. If you look at things with 1 eye, always use 1 eye. This way you're always doing it the same way. This will keep you as accurate as you possibly can be, okay? And now one other thing, while we're actually doing this, make yourself a little sheet, okay? Here you see I have for the left and for the right, what the front of the wheel measurement is, what the rear of the wheel measurement is. Write these things down as you go. Don't try to commit this to memory. By the time you've gone through all 8 measurements, you forgot what you did on the first 2. Write them down as you go. Don't try to figure it out. Step back later after you've done your measurements and say, oh, I need to adjust my toe on my left front or my right. Okay, so these are a few little tips, and like I said, the string that you're using can make a big difference in this. Okay, you want a good quality string, but actually the thinnest string you can use that you can still see will be more accurate. Okay, I'm getting old. I can't see near as well as I used to, and for demonstration purposes, if I use the tiny fishing line, you probably wouldn't see it on my video. Fishing line is probably the most accurate. It's very thin. As long as you can see it, use something like that. That'll also increase your accuracy of all of these measurements. All right. And like I said, when you get done, you can figure out later what your toe is. Just make your measurements and worry about that when you're done. Okay, so next is measuring camber. The most simple and what nobody ever really thinks about doing way is just with a simple, to measure camber would be with a simple level. All right, camber in and of itself, okay, is a relationship to a straight up and down line in the wheel. Okay, so what I've done here, this if nothing else works as a great straight edge for your wheels. Taking this 24-inch level, an aluminum 24-inch level, and I've cut the end off of it. I've removed the plastic end on that end, and I've cut the end off of it to match the distance of my wheel. Okay, obviously after you get done cutting it, make sure you clean it all up, all the burrs, so you don't scratch your wheels. But in essence, you could use this level. See if I can get you a good shot of this, just like this on my wheel. Okay, it's actually is a very, I can see I'm holding this in place with one hand, with one finger. All right, now in theory, if my bubble up here was correct, okay, I could literally take this level, okay, if I can get it in position, right, excuse me, there we go, and move it into the level position and measure that distance between my level and the wheel. Okay, obviously this is extremely awkward and it's very hard to do, especially with holding a camera in your hand. I can't do that possibly. The real problem comes in the fact that this bubble is not level, and what you'll notice on a lot of levels is what it looks like when you have it one direction, and then when you just turn the level around, it will read a different reading on the bubble. That means it's not accurate. This means this is not really set into the level properly. So can't really use this as accuracy. The other method people like to use are one of these guys. Okay, excuse me. Digital angle finder. Have one of these. All you have to do is put it on here, and it will read the degrees for you. And as you see here, it's actually reading 0.2. Okay. The problem with this device is that if I simply turn it around and place it on the level the exact same way but facing the other direction, guess what? It reads like 0.5. Okay. I checked this on all four wheels. I never got the same reading either direction I held this. So which one is right? I have no idea. This is about a waste of $35 is what this is. Okay, it's just not accurate, guys. It's only accurate to 0.1 degree, and I'm telling you, it's really not even close to that. It's probably more like 0.3 or 0.4 degrees of accuracy. I'm setting camber to less than 0.2 on the front and 0.75 in the rear. There's no way this is accurate. Okay, so what we get down to is actually using the laser level itself. Okay, this is just phenomenal, and it's just as easy as it gets. So I want to move over here where I have a little more shade to show you a little easier. All you need to do is what we're going to do is shoot a parallel line. Okay, pretty close to parallel to my wheel. Okay, I want your line to be pretty parallel. You can see right now I'm a little off from my string, actually. It looks like it's pointed a little inward. I want it pretty close to parallel, all right? I don't want to be way out of whack. So, and if I want to check to see that it's parallel, I can go right above my string here. And as you see, I'm about 1 1/16. I go in the front and I'm about 1 3/16. I'm not quite perfect. I need a little bit of adjustment there. See what I can do. Now I'm about 1 5/16. And look at there, I'm right on 1 5/16, okay? In the front, okay? And the rear. That means the laser line is parallel to my wheel. At this point, all I have to do is measure the bottom. Let's see what we got. Same thing with your string. I'm trying to hold the camera, not be in the way of the laser beam same time. If you can tell if you're holding your string right by getting the same measurement on top and bottom. So I'm a little over 1 1/4. I'm gonna go to the top. And a little over, looks like I'm just under 1 3/8, okay, which is what I think I have. I'm slightly more than 1/16 of negative camber on the front of my car. Okay, so put your laser level parallel to your wheel, measure the bottom and measure the top. It really doesn't get any easier. All 4 wheels I can do in about 2 minutes. Okay, now what I need to show you, what's really important, is how to convert from these inches that we keep talking about into degrees. Okay, all of your alignment shop's going to give you this information in degrees. Factories, a lot of times your factory specifications are going to be in degrees. Toe on this car was actually listed in millimeters. All right, I can convert that to degrees as well. But what really changes things is when you have a different size wheel. Okay, this car originally had 17-inch factory wheels on it. Okay, so one of the fallacies with measuring toe, I was going to describe this to you. You see people measuring toe down at the bottom of the treads. Okay, this is highly inaccurate, incredibly inaccurate. So to begin with, my distance between measuring points, if that distance is 12 inches and I set my toe there, the actual toe measurement at the center line of my wheel will be 1.5 times that amount that I set it at the bottom. Okay, so you can either set this way less and estimate how much to set by measuring with the treads. I suggest you don't do that. The other problem is you're literally measuring the treads of your car. We're talking about a 1/64 or 0.5 millimeter deviation in your toe. You don't think you have that in your treads? Seriously, this is not a proper way of doing this. The other real problem, and I'm not knocking guys who do it, guys. I tried this exact same thing when I was a young man. And I realized then it didn't work. The other problem with this is that I could have both front tires pointed right, okay, and I could still get the correct toe measurement. I could have them both pointed left, get the same correct toe measurement. This method of measuring your front of your car with toe does not at all justify it with the rear of the car. This is what we call thrust angle. This method that I've shown you is so amazingly perfect. This corrects all of the thrust angle for you as well. All right, but we need to know how to convert degrees to inches and inches to degrees. But real quickly, I want to show you one other thing that you can do with this level. And just to show you, when I have the front of my wheel set perfectly on 0 toe. I'm just going to hold the level without touching the string and let you see the relationship of the string to the level. Okay, it's perfectly parallel with that level because my toe is set perfectly 0 and my strings are perfectly parallel with the car. You can go in the back of the car And I'll show you the exact same thing. Both of these toes are set at 0. They're not supposed to be. Supposed to be set a little bit of negative toe, or toe in, excuse me. But you can see the same relationship of the level to my wheel, okay? This is an amazing method for setting up your car, guys. It really works. We just need to know how to convert from degrees to inches. So after you've taken your measurements, you're gonna have something that looks like this, okay? Where I measured my camber, I measured the bottom at 1.5 inches, and I measured the top at 1 inch and 19/30 seconds. I measured the toe on the front. Both of them were both 1 inch, 27/30 seconds on both. The rear was, the right front was the same on toe, which equates to 0. The difference between, I had the exact same camber on both sides, same toe. That equates to 3/32 of a degree. So, of an inch, excuse me. So to convert that to an inch, to degrees, all this depends on is the size of my wheel, okay? If I use this simple formula, the inverse tangent of 3/32 divided by 18.5, that gives me 29.29 degrees or 17 minutes. The reason I come up with 18.5 is because I have 17-inch wheels, okay? When I have 17-inch wheels, all right, the actual distance to my measuring point is 18.5, okay? The factory wheels were 16-inch wheels. That means the distance between measuring points was 17.5. So when I see this angle that's why I have to calculate this angle in degrees if that's how my alignment shop gives it to me, because I have a different dimension than the factory, okay? Now, this other simple way to go backwards, okay, if I know the factory setting, let's say, for example, of my camber, all right? Let's say my camber is negative 0.5 degrees, okay? The original car had 17-inch wheels on it, and I put 19-inch wheels on it now, okay? So the physical measurement in inches of this is going to be slightly different between these two, all right? So to calculate what your physical distance is of this, all I need to do is a simple formula. I need to take tangent of 0.5 degrees, and that I'm going to multiply by the wheel size plus 1.5 inches, okay? So if I have 19-inch wheels, that's going to be 20.5 times the tangent of 0.05. That will give me inches. That will tell me exactly how many inches 0.5 degrees will be for a 19-inch wheel, all right? So no matter what wheel you're running on your car, if you have the factory settings, you can convert that into inches, okay? And just to do quick math, just to show you on the calculator. All right, so if I do tangent 0.5, enter, equals, times, where I said 20.5, 20.5 equals 0.18 degrees. Okay, so that equals 0.18 inches, excuse me. All right, all you have to do is convert inches to that's a fraction. Whatever you need to do to convert that to 16ths, 30 seconds, whatever you need. 0.18 inches is what that's going to be. On the factory wheel, that would be different. That would probably be like, this is what 0.18 inches on the factory wheel would probably be like 0.19 or something. Be slightly different. So this is the formula. You're going to use either tangent or inverse tangent. Inverse tangent to go from your measurement to degrees, your physical measurement to degrees, or I can do tangent to go from degrees to a physical measurement. Okay, guys? I know this is still quite a bit, but I tried to shorten it down, show you some of the improper ways to measure some of these things and why the methods that I showed you are the absolute best ways you can do it. All right, nothing beats this for toe, and the laser level is just absolutely phenomenal. All right, absolutely phenomenal. This conversion method that I'm showing you, okay, works for both your camber and your toe. It's the same relationship between your degrees and your inches on your wheels. All right. Hope this explains a few things, guys. Hope you're able to get this done on your own cars, and good luck with everything. Thanks for watching.